Abdullah al-Arian from Georgetown University is still with us here on set. Let's talk about Land Day. Obviously, you know, the anniversaries come and go each year. The ideology is set in stone as far as the Israelis are concerned, and all that the Palestinians can do is remember.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all of us, I think, are quite familiar with that map, that famous map of the shrinking of Palestine going back from 1948 until the present. You know, so there's something to be said about the fact that the theft of land has been part and parcel of the Israeli state going back to its establishment in 1948. Very soon after, the Israeli state established certain laws that basically permitted them under this massively wide umbrella of security concerns to be able to seize any land at any point, specifically from Palestinian residents and citizens of the state. And so we've seen this, of course, over the years. 1976 was the very first commemoration of Land Day with regard to a specific incident in which, you know, a parcel of land was taken from those who happened to be citizens of the state of Israel and yet obviously had no rights whatsoever to challenge the theft of their land. And since then, we've been seeing this marked on an annual basis, and we're continuing to see it today. You just mentioned, I think, before the break, about this new announcement of yet more land that's being confiscated unilaterally by the state, as announced by one of the Israeli ministers, something we haven't seen, at least not on that scale, in decades, really. So we're continuing to witness this happening, not just, you know, 40, 50 years ago, but even today.
And of course, it runs in tandem with exactly what's going on in the war in Gaza. So the Palestinians have this front that they have to deal with, you know, conflict and land grabs. And it's not lost on the Arab community in the region. I mean, we're seeing demonstrations, in Jordan only last night, on Friday evening. Yet the question that's continually asked, even to me when I'm away from camera, by people across Europe and when I visit, is why do the Arab countries that have agreements and recognise Israel not cut their diplomatic ties? Seems it's always left to Central American countries to actually take the lead.
Well, I mean, I think to understand that question, we have to really look at the state of what Arab politics looks like in this day and age. I mean, if we think back just a decade ago, we had mass uprisings in which the will of hundreds of millions of people was being represented in the streets and in these attempted revolutions. But what happened after that, of course, is that there was a kind of an authoritarian retrenchment. We had these you know, unrepresentative, monarchical and dictatorship regimes that are essentially installing their will and imposing their will at the expense of their population's demands. And they're doing this in part, obviously, as a means of securing their own power. All of them are quite deeply unpopular. But in addition to that, because of just their absolute dependence economically, militarily, diplomatically, on Western countries. And so they're completely beholden to the whims of not just Israel, but the United States and the EU and many other countries. And so in that sense, it's quite understandable that they would be simply echoing the same policies we see coming out of Washington and London and Paris.
For the moment, we'll leave it there. Of course, we'll keep your analysis going throughout the day. Abdullah al-Arian, thank you for joining us.